Welcome back for another video. So I asked for your hot takes for the 2024-25 season. Last year we had some great shouts and we had some absolutely shocking ones as well, let's be honest. We're back with this year's edition. Drop your hot take for the 24-25 season below in the comments and we'll come back to them at the end of the season. With only a couple of weeks left of pre-season, now's the perfect time to sign up for Scout, who are doing a 40% pre-season discount. You get countless FPL tools like data tables, fixture ticker, player comparison and more. It supports the channel as well. Big thanks to Scout for their support. Link below in the description to join. First up's fplfocal, and he says, Brennan Johnson is going to outscore Son this season. So, last season they did have comparable minutes per expected goal involvement. Son every 143 minutes, Johnson every 155 minutes. To play devil's advocate, Johnson scored 5 times from 10.36 expected goals, so he's going to need to improve on his finishing and Son to underperform, but if he can, you never know. I do think Johnson's quite overlooked. He's under 10% owned and he's got Leicester and Everton as his first 2 games, and then you've got the choice to hold him. If he's doing well, we can take your pick of any of the other 6.5 mil mids, like Nkunku, Bailey, Gibbs-White, Kudus, etc. He's got a weird knack of not looking all that involved over the course of the match, but he pops up with the points. He's good at doing 2 things I think that Postecoglou loves. One which is running down the byline and drilling the cross in for someone to tap in, or being that player at the back post to tap in the drilled ball. Do you agree with this one, or is it madness? FPL Guru says, Liverpool finished the season with the most clean sheets. Slot sets up to dominate possession, which does tend to equate to a better defence. Using last season as an example, because it's all we've got to go on, at Feyenoord they had the best expected goals conceded per 90 of all teams, with just 0.87 XGC per. It's a different league and obviously a different challenge, but still a useful observation. In terms of possession, they had a low of 58.5% in the 2022 season, to a high of 61.8% in 2024, so it's a clear style of play. Arsenal were ridiculously good defensively last season though, so I still back them to get the most clean sheets. And they've got Timber back, plus they've strengthened with Calafiori. That said, Liverpool do have the best opening fixtures: Ipswich, Brentford, Man United, Forest, Bournemouth, Wolves and then Palace. If you saw my latest FPL team, I'm settled on having Trent in my team. Chris Raptor said, Amad Diallo is going to be the most owned player. This one's very bold. It almost certainly doesn't happen in my opinion. He'd have to have a Palmer-esque season to be so widely bought that he ends up the most owned player. Last season Ten Hag did admit that he deserves more game time, and this pre-season indicate that he's going to play more, that there is a lot of competition still with the likes of Garnacho, Rashford, Sancho, Antony, etc. At the moment I prefer Rodgers for 5 mil currently, or save the 0.5 mil on wings and never aim to start him. Let us know in the comments who you think is going to have a breakout season. FPL Zach says Nkunku's going to outperform Palmer this season. This one's a massive claim, let's be honest. Nkunku's 23-24 season was obviously hampered with injuries. We know he's quality. He got 70 goals, 45 assists in 172 games at RB Leipzig. He scored 3 times last season in just 438 minutes. He's looked sharp in pre-season as well so far. He scored twice. One of those was a penalty against Celtic, which Palmer ordinarily takes, but he's not back with the squad yet. I'm expecting Palmer to outscore him personally. Maresca would be daft not to build the entire team around him like Pochettino did. However, that doesn't make Nkunku an avoid. We're talking about a 4 mil gap between them. Maresca's had very good things to say about Nkunku. After their first pre-season game, he said, quote, he can play everywhere. He's one of the players in these 2 weeks of pre-season that's doing very, very well. He's already taken to the way we want to play, and that's important. For a bit of fun, let's try and predict how they do this season. I'm going to go 190 points for Palmer, 160 points for Nkunku, assuming they both stay injury free. Bentley says Szoboszlai becomes the biggest game-changing differential and he gets top 10 players for points in FPL. He was the scorer of Liverpool's only goal in their 1-0 win over Real Betis in pre-season, playing way more advanced than previously. This was likely in part due to the lack of strikers in the squad at the time. However, Slot does play with advanced 10s, and he does have massive potential in his opening game weeks, especially one to consider if you love a differential. He's only about 2% owned. Szoboszlai was asked post-match about his role in that game, and he said, quote, yeah, it's a little bit different compared to last year, but we're ready to do everything. And I think that's the goal we want to do. So if Harvey drops on one side, I'm going to the middle, and if I'm dropping on the other side, Harvey comes to the middle. I don't know if it's going to be like this in the season, but until the manager wants us to do this, then probably we're going to do it. Only 6.5 mil Szoboszlai. Coach Mike says Reece James and Ben Chilwell make it through the season unscathed. I'm not hearing anyone out on this one. Let's go on to the next one. The Greek lad says the Haaland strategy will make or break everyone's season. And he says when he performs, half the player base won't have him and it's game week over. Same for his owners whenever he does them. And says not sure I've ever seen FPL be based so much on one player. I'm going to offer a counter argument to this one and point out that last season Haaland was in something like 85% of teams, while Salah was in significantly less, and a fraction of that had both players. And yet Salah started the season unbelievably well. In the opening 12 game weeks he had 10 goals, 4 assists. Many out there, myself included, had to chop the team up to fit Salah in and still did fine. The other reason it's nowhere near make or break for me is the ownership. Haaland's 34% owned, and undoubtedly he will be the most captain in Game Week 2. However, it's not the same as going without an 85% owned Haaland, pushing 200% effective ownership some game weeks, so the rank downside is much less. I've been watching Chelsea in pre-season and they have looked very shaky defensively so far. They're still obviously looking to understand Maresca's system, while Haaland's scored in both pre-season games so far. So there is potential for him to bang against Chelsea, haul against Ipswich, and suddenly we're looking at a 15.2 mil Haaland, which is going to take some serious team surgery, but not impossible. Given Salah and Haaland's ownership's practically the same right now, you could make that same point to those who go in Haaland only. If Salah starts really well, as he has done in countless past seasons, then they'll be on the back foot, but not by much given the ownership levels. Baffa says clean sheets will be rare this season. This one's not so much of a hot take off the back of last season. In fact, I've got some interesting data on this. Last season, there were 1,246 goals in the Premier League, which is the most we've had since 1985 in the top division. The 8 seasons before last one, there were over 1,000 goals as well, and you'd have to go back to the 2014-15 season, the last time there were less than 1,000. However, that could simply be the top teams who just got even better and they've shared a larger portion of goals. So was last season a crazy anomaly or is this the new norm? The drop off in clean sheets plus the spike in goals last season, combined with the new BPS rule changes that favour defenders and keepers less, could mean that we should spend less at the back. I think it's very inconclusive with the premiums especially if you ask me, and I still think they have a place in our teams. Maybe the solution is actually big at the back only, with a back three of something like Saliba, Vardy or Trent. Henry says Ross Stewart for 4.5 mil is going to become a regular starter eventually and bag a few goals. He says he's the new Muniz but even cheaper. I'd love for this one to be true because he was in my latest draft, but I'm not expecting much. He's low owned and he hasn't played at all in pre-season so far, and he spent the entirety of last season injured besides 3 short cameos off the bench, which was very unfortunate because they signed him from Sunderland after impressing in the Championship. He had 13 starts and he blanked just 3 times under them, and the year before he scored 24 goals in 46 games, but that was in League One. I've been trying to think of a hot take of my own to throw in for this season. I'm going to go with Arsenal to win the league and Havertz to finish as the top scorer forward. Let me know what you think. Drop your FPL 24-25 predictions in the comments. Thanks for watching. See you soon for the next one.